resident of Colonial Drive in the Panaway Manor neighborhood, aka Portsmouth's Forgotten neighborhood. I live there with my wife Krista, our 2-year-old daughter, and our daughter attends the Seacoast Community School, daycare and preschool, which educates children from infancy to 4 years old. It's located at the community campus. You might be wondering why I'm mentioning this, but it's because that's where the Robert Lister kids are planning to be moved so that this project can get underway. I'm here tonight as a concerned neighbor and father, as well as a frustrated citizen of Portsmouth, and embarrassingly so, a voter of yours, Mr. Mayor. We have been told that part of the goal of tonight's discussion was for us, as neighbors, to have the opportunity to ask questions, but also propose alternative ideas. I have several of both. However, before I get to my ideas, I want to have my questions addressed first. My first question that I have is, what exactly is City Council's role in this project? Based on the comments made by you, Mr. Mayor, and various news articles and social media posts, City Council is saying that this project would be exclusively for the workforce of Portsmouth, which directly contradicts what the PHA has proposed. During their proposal, the PHA stated that the goal of this project would be a first-of-its-kind mixed-use village of workforce, low-income, and service-supported housing. So, Mr. PHA, I'm glad that you did a presentation, but I'm sad to see it differed from your original. But as I understand, from the 1/12/23 meeting and neighborhood discussions with Josh, Rich, and John from Council, the PHA is a private, non-profit that is separate from the city. They will be moving forward on an application for grant money and funding separately from the city to develop on the Lister Academy lot where we all are tonight. Then, based on whatever funding they receive, that would then dictate the exact type of housing they are funded to build. Rich, John, and Josh all said that the City Council would have no say in who exactly qualifies to live in the PHA's project, as it would be owned and run by the PHA, not the city. Mr. Mayor, Rich, Josh, John, how can you and other city officials say in published articles in Seacoast Online, or post on social media, or say to constituents that this project will be exclusively for workforce housing, when that is not what the PHA has proposed, or what the PHA will be exclusively applying for? And I say exclusively applying for. Will you commit, Mr. Mayor, John, Josh, Craig, that you will not vote to confirm anything other than workforce housing? We've heard Mr. Mayor say the workforce housing, but yet there was one definition given. And I've also heard from Rich and from some others that, hey, there's no real definition we can give to this. So I'm wondering, is that definition that was given tonight the specific definition that is in the grant that you are applying for? Are there income minimums and maximums for the grant that the PHA is applying for? Do people who qualify for workforce housing have to prove that they live in Portsmouth? Again, to preserve the workforce of Portsmouth. Also brought up in the original meeting was the proximity to 95 and C&J and other luxuries, I guess you could call them, that would support the commuting force for this project. If it's the workforce of Portsmouth, why should we be concerned about gateways out of Portsmouth? Regarding the size of the project. Who determines the size of the project? We have heard 80 to 160 units. That was original. Tonight, a lower number, but still not great. And we've received no information on how that number was determined. Who came up with it? And who ultimately makes the decision? Is it the PHA that's applying for as much grant money to support the biggest and most expansive project they can build? And then depending on how much grant money they receive, is that what will determine the size? Of the grants that the PHA is applying for, how much of the grant money will be exclusively for workforce housing instead of low income or service supported? Has anyone from the City Council seen the grants that they're applying for? Or can share the names of the grants so that we as educated citizens can also look into the details? Are conversations like the one tonight actually going to impact the the conversation on size? Are we trying to match the neighborhood as we've heard in private conversations? And is that something that the PHA is worried about? If so, why propose 2 4-story buildings, among others, when nothing, even next to the fish stick factory, is even 4 stories? My third question is regarding the timeline and the misinformation that we as citizens seem to have fallen victim to at the hands of both City Council and the PHA. March 2022, the city purchases community campus. The city begins discussions with the Robert Lister Academy to discuss and ultimately decide on moving the students, faculty, and staff of RLA to the community campus. Same building as the daycare of infants to 4-year-olds. The PHA hires civil engineers and architects to begin their work for the proposal. The PHA coordinates time with the City Council to schedule time during a council meeting where a large portion of time will be given to the PHA to present their proposal. The meeting is then set for 1/12/23, and the only questions that came from council were, how can we help to push this along as fast as possible? There were no questions as if they were thinking about the citizens that live in the neighborhood, or thinking as citizens that were, hey, what if this was going on in my neighborhood? Wouldn't they be curious? And I'm not trying to sound like a not in my backyard guy, but surely we all have questions. The fact is, nobody asked any questions aside from, how can we rush? So within the last year, you have worked to empty the building, this building, by putting adolescents at risk due to behavioral and emotional challenges in the same building as babies. Then claiming that that building is vacant, decrepit, and one step away from being condemned, and needs to be developed now. And we'll be working hand in hand with the PHA, who, according to their own study, I heard a question about a study, there's one study that was referenced, and it was the PHA study. According to their own study, has outlined the need for such a project. And again, need to rush this along as soon as possible, and along the way, intentionally misleading the community. Lastly, before I get into my ideas, and I do have some ideas as to what we could use for this property, I have one more question. When you ask for alternative ideas, what is the next step to make sure that any ideas for alternatives get recognized as an official proposal? It seems to me that the PHA is the only proposal on the table. Are there ideas that tonight maybe we'll come across that would count as proposals? Are the ideas tonight count as proposals? I'd assume not. I'm glad to see that we're recording. Again, possibly some more misinformation. We were told it wouldn't be recorded, but I'm glad that it is. Because I'm wondering, for the ideas tonight, what it will take for our ideas to be recognized as formal proposals. Will you as City Council take them forward? Will you fight on our behalf to voice our concerns, our ideas, our proposals? Or is it up to us as individuals? If it's up to us as individuals, I would argue that we're up against it because we're up against a private entity that has already spent thousands of dollars to make sure that this project goes through. So I'm wondering if this is a check the box to say that we've met with people, or if your ears are truly open. If your ears are truly open, I really want to understand what the next steps will be to make sure that what you hear tonight makes it to the next City Council. Because I'll be there. And I want to make sure that some of the ideas that are discussed with my neighbors make it to your ears and to discussion further. Thanks for the time. I'm glad.
Questions discussing what the income affordability of that would be when that would go. Just, I guess, one thing on the Robert Lister Academy, the purchase of community campus. This building, we were told, $3 to $8 million to bring up to code in terms of, not code, but in terms of what would be expected there. It's the long-term strategic mission to support some of the nonprofits that are out of community campus, also take on 3 to 4 acres. that over there. And that came up before any discussions around what would happen here. Second, on your ideas, I'd love to hear folks and what their ideas for this building right here. What we're talking about in terms of housing is behind the building. And so if there are big ideas for what this neighborhood wants to see in this building, we'd love to hear all of them. You know, it's helpful if there's ideas that are organized.
Let Craig answer.
What's that?
Let Craig answer.
Yeah, I mean, look, Mark, you know, I appreciate your outspokenness and also your science, but I just want to get through the answer to this question.
What's your role in this project?
Our role is ultimately to approve or not approve the project.
You have no say in this.
No, so in terms of, so this is a correct question in terms of the grants that you can apply for, or good segue for the correct answer.
Great. So now.
Peter, there was a lot of questions in what you said, and I can answer or try to answer all of them, but I don't know that this is makes me the place to do it. Even outside of a council meeting. What's important to me, Peter, and
I think this would be the place because we're all here tonight, so
Agreed.
so do you want, I tried to write down a lot of stuff, you have a lot of stuff, I don't know where you want me to start.
There you go.
So I think around the grants,
Okay, so financing housing under the federal low-income housing tax credit program. Tax credits is considered, is what we get for equity, right? So there's debt and then there's equity. The federal tax credits allow us to raise, it should be between, for Bruce Place it was about $7.5 million to build the project, and that's why we can build it and keep it affordable to people. It usually is, you know, that capital stack, it's usually not enough to just use those credits, so we end up with some private debt, like from banks, some debt from public organizations like the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority. We also had a grant from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Boston, which was an interest rate subsidy buy down, and then also a $500,000 grant, and it was actually Bank Prov locally that bought all of these federal low-income housing tax credits. There's a lot of complexity in how those credits work in terms of how they're used as a financial instrument. So yes, I think going into another question is that the legal entity that ends up owning property, for instance, Lafayette School is a city-owned property. It's leased by the Lafayette School Senior Housing Partnership. So they're set up as separate LLCs, of which the limited partner is the tax credit investor, and the general partner is us as a nonprofit. I can go on that. Is that
Maybe touch on. Make them available so that we can see what the grants are, who qualifies, what you're applying for, and so that we can, as educated residents of this neighborhood, truly understand the impact that you're applying for the development. Can you make those public?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Just give us links. Just give us links so that we can read.
Okay, and the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority is a great source for all of this information at the website that I gave you, and we can certainly show you what we did in the past one. The other ones were before my time, but the capital stack is a little different on every one. And there's different, it's complex to manage it because there's different regulatory requirements between each one. Does that answer your question?
My main question is, what's been said by the mayor, what's been said by council, is this would be exclusively workforce housing. Are you applying for any grants for any other type of housing other than workforce as defined in the presentation that you gave tonight?
We don't know what other housing we would build, but if there was
Are you applying
if,
for any other types?
well, there's other types of housing, there's other,
Are you applying for any
no,
other types?
we haven't applied for anything. So we haven't applied for anything. All right.
Craig, I think the question is, will the grant define the demographic of the population that would be eligible for the housing?
The income demographic?
Any of it, whether it's low income, if it's Section 8, if it's workforce. Like, will the grant have a definition of the demographic that will populate the space?
The income definition, yes.
So I think, Greg, what they're,
What's being built, she's talking about.
so, Greg, so,
No, because
Yeah.
the question is, who's coming into the neighborhood?
yeah.
Like,
Oh,
Can we
okay.
make it workforce housing permanent?
Right.
we're kind of just thrown out a really big net.
Right. There are a lot of housing needs in Portsmouth, right? So there's people who do have some needs, and there's other groups that are going to propose different as part of this whole process, right? So I know Haven is interested in, pardon me? It's called Haven. I've talked to lots of other nonprofits, make it into a music school or a daycare center or some other kind of use. There's a group here that has kids with developmental and intellectual disabilities who is interested in housing. So I'm not sure who should be excluded or included, but right now, what we're proposing and what we've envisioned from the very beginning is workforce housing, like what we have downtown at Roost Place. All of our housing portfolio that we own and manage now, or that we own now, is we have a preference for Portsmouth residents. Okay, so we have 800 people on our wait list for Portsmouth Housing. They're all on different wait lists because we have 12 different properties that we manage. And for Bruce Place is the only one that doesn't have a subsidy, right? So you have to pay all the rent. You have to have some income to pay all the rent. This is what we're envisioning. This is what the mayor wanted. This is what we're envisioning for this property is for, tax credit finance, affordable housing. Workforce, what do you want to call it? Workforce housing or low income housing or affordable workforce housing or.
No.
Yes. This is not a Section 8. Pardon me? As a Portsmouth Housing Authority, we're never going to tell somebody no. We're never going to exclude people with vouchers.
Yes or no answer. If you build this project in here, are you going to allow Section 8 people into this house?
People with a portable Section 8 voucher, yes. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's what workforce housing, yes. Yeah.
No, you can't, sorry. I get it. You could probably talk loud enough, but you're not going to depict them in the voice recording.
My name is Michelle Scott. I've been in the neighborhood almost 30 years. I've been in social services about 40 years. So I'm real familiar with what subsidized housing does to communities and to the people who live in the subsidized housing. It's stigmatizing oftentimes. And
Speak into the mic.
so I'm just interested to know, you seem to think that this isn't going to impact our neighborhood. We have a wonderful neighborhood. And 300 people, I mean, potentially, there could be hundreds of people in our neighborhood with needs. If you're talking about bringing a agency like Haven or something like that, obviously these people have needs. And I don't see how the impact is going to be positive for us. And I applaud you for trying to deal with this very difficult issue. These are complicated issues and difficult. Personally, I don't like segregated housing. It's just not, I don't think it works well. I think it works better when people are integrated into communities through rental subsidies and vouchers, those kinds of things. But I don't think you've spoken to our concerns about our property values, and I'm sure most people here are owners of property and it's their major investment. We are already hindered by the noise and the fumes of 95 and airport. So now you're talking about putting subsidized housing at the entrance of our neighborhood. So I think you need to talk more about why that's a good idea, because I'm not seeing it. I'm not excited.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure, yep. You got a t-shirt.
Yes, I do. I'm a owner of a home in Panaway for 26 years.
Yeah, I will make sure, but you can hear my voice.
I can, but the...
You already know, I don't want to hear from you, I'm here to talk to the people. What I was wondering, first of all, as you opened with those nice pictures and you showed us gladly, you know, we were the fried fish fillets there, and that you told, I don't accept your apology. You would never have apologized to us unless I mentioned it. But my question to you about workforce housing, why haven't you considered using the 14 acres of land that you just bought in the city of Portsmouth for community campus? Why don't you just move on up there? I'm sure you can get a great traffic study up there. I want you to tell me, how are you going to get 3,000 people that are coming into Liberty Mutual, exiting Liberty Mutual, and then you have us coming out of Panaway. You have 33 people trying to get in and out of Panaway, and it's only one way. We're stuck in there. We can't get out. We can't get out at all. So I just want to ask you, have you considered that 14-acre property up there? That would be a beautiful place for work. I'm not against workforce housing. I don't trust any of you. I think you're pushing this through. You can smile that cocky little smile all you want, Crystal. She has a number, Greg. These people have loved ones. These people have children that are going to go to school. My son went to New Franklin School. It was overcrowded back then. This lovely teacher here, thank you for being a teacher. She's been there. I was a para for 15 years for the city of Portsmouth. I know what it's like, and I know what people. I loved my job. So I think you people should reconsider moving this stupid-ass project and stop blowing smoke up our ass.
I appreciate the passion. I would simply ask that you be as polite as possible. Because I understand. The question was, why can't we do the community campus? Craig, you want to speak?
Yeah, let's do that too. Some people think that housing should be segregated to certain areas and not certain areas, but certainly we believe that housing should be everywhere. Whether, no matter what kind of communities that we all already have workforce housing and stuff in our communities, but I think that it should be everywhere. And I think community campus would be a great place. There's some city-owned Atlantic Heights that I think would be great. There's some on Granite Street that I think would be great. There's all kinds of opportunities in Portsmouth, our own housing. We just built in a parking lot that we already had. That made a lot of sense. Gaza Meadows could be developed or redeveloped in certain ways. So there's lots of opportunities to do this in Portsmouth, and including this one. So.
Ray, where do you live?
South Street.
Would you allow us to wear something?
Oh, you're damn right I would.
Yeah, right. I believe you.
Hey guys.
Good evening, council and neighbors. With my wife Jennifer today, I just have 3 quick questions. For me, it was the shock and surprise of this project. Like if Sue and Betty, 4 houses away, a block away, want to build a chicken coop in my neighborhood, there's an official letter that comes and says, Sue and Betty want to build a chicken coop. If Bob and Betty on the next street want to build, in addition to their home, I get an official letter from the city saying, we're building, come to a hearing, right up front before it's even, pictures and drawings. So for me, I find, when I heard about this kind of under the radar, just 2 weeks ago, it was the day after the hearing, an hour and 14 minutes in, I think like a lot of people, we were shocked, because to have pictures, the planning, this has been in the works for a long time. And I get why. I really understand we do need some housing. But I think it's kind of the covert sort of, it feels sneaky, which to me, I'm not a college educated guy, but to me, it's, the feeling is, if it's sneaky